call the meeting to order, February 6, 2012, and we'll begin with a moment of silent meditation and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to begin the meeting with a hearing tonight for the earth removal ordinance. And this is an item that's been ongoing. I'd note since 2007, it might have been, I don't know if it went to 2006, but 3 councils have worked on it. There have been many of you that are here tonight that have gone to the workshops and previous hearings or previous hearing. And I hope that tonight we can move forward. And it's an opportunity to bring up any last questions, any more comments, any problems, anything at all tonight. So it would be a good night to talk about that. So what I'm going to start with, I want to make sure everybody in the audience is going to have an opportunity to speak once at least, and then we'll even go around to a second round if we need it. So I'll start first with the council, and first, Frank, when did you get involved with this? You weren't really
appointed last March.
Then prior to that?
Prior to that, no.
You weren't involved at all? Okay. Well, we have the document with us that has been worked on, and we have had the subcommittee work on it between the manager and the planner, and I think Barbara went to some meetings, and some of you did with your representative, Mr. Camoli, I believe.
Yep.
It's been so long. It seems like it. I'll just read briefly. I think we're all pretty familiar with it, but just for the record, the authority and purpose is that the authority is granted to the town of Hopkinton by the charter. In this ordinance, its purpose specifically is to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the people of the town of Hopkinton by minimizing the impacts of heavy truck traffic in Hopkinton neighborhoods, preventing damage to roads and bridges within the town, protecting the quality of the surface water, groundwater, and other natural resources, controlling fugitive dust, air pollution, noise emissions, and affecting registration requirements within the town for the removal of earth as defined in this article, and to implement the goals and objectives of the town's comprehensive plan. So I'll leave it there. Why don't we just start at one end and work our way around? I'll start at that end because you're at least familiar with it. Is there anything you'd like to bring up?
Can I wait until after the public
sure.
comments?
Sure.
Because I made some notes, and I'll do it that way.
Okay. Tom?
Same here. I mean, I've been involved in this since the start, and this has definitely come a long way. And some of the wording that's been changed, and we can see by the what was in there prior with the stricken line through. I think this is the closest, and hopefully this will be it. So I'd rather wait for public comment.
Fine. Barbara?
Mine is. I don't think Sylvia is.
No, it is. We have been working with on this ordinance for several years. I think the last intensive workshop has been with the subcommittee. Tom and I were on that with the manager and several of the members of the gravel bank operators, as well as with Mr. Camoli. I think we went through quite a number of categories and levels of discussion. I think that the earth removal ordinance as it is being proposed right now is a good work that we have done as a unit. So I'm very interested in other questions and other information. We did try to listen to and work with the gravel bank operators because this is a valid business. We want to keep these businesses alive. We certainly want anyone who we consider cowboys not to work. But anyone who is a legitimate business that is doing things according to DEM and all the other regulations, we would like to be able to continue. So I'm also interested in comments from the audience.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, I wanted to make sure, because I wasn't really involved in this at all, except for when I got the packet this weekend. I just want to make sure that all the requirements are a joint effort with the folks that it affects as well as the folks that are going to be enforcing it. So it seemed a little restrictive in some regards, but I'm not sure if that's just a collaboration and everybody's fine with what was and now what is. So as long as everyone's happy with it, I guess, as far as the gravel bank folks and the town, I think that's fine. I just had a couple quick comments. Does this affect existing, same requirements for existing or new gravel bank? Is it all the same? Or do they grandfather in some regard as far as non-conforming use? Does anybody?
Affects everybody.
Okay. And one question I had about section 107 was additional provisions. The town council may hire consulting professionals at the expense of the applicant. When might that come up, I guess? And how does that process take place? You know, one person I had spoke to today was concerned about, you know, the really expensive fees for consulting and how that might affect, and how do you pick the person? Is it the most expensive person out there? Or, you know, so I don't know if anybody has an answer to that.
Well, I could suggest that this is something that the planning board has done when they have to hire someone for something. But normally it's done when a proposal would come in that's very complicated. And that's would be my take on it. And I don't think, maybe if it was a large-scale operation and if there were environmental or something we needed, I don't see why we would need to use that at all, unless it was complicated or big.
Or there was a dispute.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Thanks, and I welcome the public comment too, so thanks.
Okay. I have a question, and I think that during the hearing, I would hope that somebody could suggest what they thought. On the first page under 103, I wondered if, because this is new and it's going to hit everybody at the same time, the very last sentence where it says the application must be submitted within 90 days after passage of this ordinance, and I wasn't sure. I thought that maybe that time was too short. So I would like to hear from the operators. They're here tonight. The other thing is section 104A. I had a question on A. The first sentence, the rear yard, front yard, it ends with land that is located in a residential, right in the middle, land that is located in a residential use zoning classification. It says comma, or an existing road, and an existing road isn't defined, so state, public, private, so I didn't know if that was an issue at all. I just wanted to throw that out, that whether or not that needed to be specific.
Where is this exactly?
Right here.
104 section.
104A, right in the middle. It's
Top.
the first sentence, it's the end of the first sentence.
We may end up using it as just an existing road because we have both public roads, private roads, driftways. We have many different kinds of roads, and I think it is to be on any road, whether people considered a driftway a public or a private space. I think it was to cover all the roads.
The other question I wanted, and I don't think would have an answer for this one, it's 104B. It's on the same page that I just brought up. The hours of earth removal operation, for instance, here are Monday through Friday, 7 to 6, and then Saturday, 7 to 4. And that really goes back to prior zoning decisions that were made throughout the years. I brought some of them. The one in your neighborhood, the Kreider, well, it was Kreider and then Marone, and that was a decision that was an agreement they actually came to between the town of Hopkinton and the owner, and it's been filed and recorded onto the deed.
That's why this says no greater than as follows.
Oh, so you've got language in here that covers that?
It's
Hours of work from the
Shall be no greater than
no
is
greater
twelve.
than as follows.
So my question is, what happens to all the prior zoning decisions? Does this,
Those
they just fall away?
No, no, no.
They stay in force? Okay.
Even if they're in conflict of the ordinance?
As long as they're not, as
Over
long
and
as they're
above
not
this.
greater than this.
Greater
Yes.
than
Oh, I see. Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so you got an answer to that one. Okay. All right, well, that was just a few of the things I had. So why don't we open it up to the public? Is there anyone who would like to speak, would like to go first? Oh.
I would just like to comment on those hours. In dealing with Mr. Camoli and others, we took a survey of 6 other similar-sized towns in the state of Rhode Island: East Greenwich, North Kingstown, North Smithfield, Richmond, Smithfield, and South Kingstown. And the first 5 had the exact same hours, Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and excluding Sundays and holidays, with some special provisions. Each one had a different provision to get permission to operate on Sundays and holidays. And the last one, South Kingstown, was 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So our hours are exactly the same as East Greenwich, North Kingston, North Smithfield, Richmond, and Smithfield, and South Kingston, just a little bit different. So they're consistent with other similar-sized cities and towns in Rhode Island.
Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up, Bill?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay, who would like to speak? Mr. Camoli?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the Town Council. Attorney George Camoli, I'd like to take a moment to represent Mr. Bereavement, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Koska, who retained me to be here tonight. And over the last numerous months, we've worked with your subcommittee, Ms. Capalbo. In this particular case, I wish to thank the town planner, the town manager, Mr. Westcott, Joe Lombardo, and my clients for attending all these subcommittee meetings and trying to work on this schedule. We have a balancing act here. We have what they call pre-existing legal non-conforming uses, and an intent by the town to make sure there's some control so it doesn't have an effect on residential neighborhoods. In the course of that balancing act, I was fortunate enough to have clients who listened and were reasonable enough to say, we will abide by certain regulations to allow you to enforce certain guidelines to not affect residential neighborhoods. That said, it should be looked at carefully when we submit our application that this council we won't have problems with. Future councils we have to be wary of, because they may say, we want you to have a hydrological report. We wish you to flag those wetlands. We wish you to hire a geological survey or have an environmentalist go out there, in the words of Mr. Everson, to make sure there is no endangered tree frog out there. These people are willing to abide by these concerns to avoid dust, to avoid noise, to have reasonable hours, and we're hoping that this council and future councils acknowledge their good faith efforts. We hope that when we submit our application, the application is looked at in a favorable light. It will meet all your requirements. It will not have hydrological detail. It will not have wetland flaggings, but it will be enough that you know that this is a legitimate gravel operation, does have RIPED permits if required, does have buildings out there, has met buffer requirements, and has done everything to assure that the town residents are not adversely affected, but at the same time, realizing these are legitimate Hopkinton businesses that employ residents and must go on. Once again, thank everyone for their good efforts. Be glad to respond to any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Harvey Buford, Conservation Commission. I just was trying to understand the process with the submission. When it comes in, is it to be reviewed by the town, and maybe it's not going to be, you might say, we want you to work on this part or do this, or is it just submitted and that's the process, and it's accepted and no questions? I didn't quite understand the process. That was it.
They submit the application, and it goes to there's a list in here of who it went to.
Mr.
For-
Carter can probably answer some of that.
Oh,
because
go
there's-
ahead.
Because you're DEM.
Fine, that's
I'm
easier
used
than
to,
me finding it.
I'm used to answering Javi's questions. Basically, in this case, it gets submitted to the town council. The town council has the authority to submit it to the planning board, the zoning board, DPW, police, and your Department of Public Works, who have to submit comments before you act on the application. Does that answer your question?
Just to follow that up. So if they have a concern or they bring up something that they want to be discussed more, I'm taking it then that there might be something coming back to the applicant. So it's a give and take. It'll get worked. There's a process. It's not just submit it and forget
Yes
it.
or no, no.
Okay,
No,
that
no,
was
no.
my only question on it.
Most definitely. It's
All right. Okay. All right,
Not a
thank-
yes or no kind of thing.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name's John Everson. I own and operate Narragansett Improvement Company. We have a pit up here on Arcadia Road. Bill, those South Kingston hours really sounded pretty good. Is there any way we can probably approach that? Because I try to load out my trucks by 7 o'clock. The loader operator goes in the pit around 6:30, starts the machine, warms it up, gets it ready to go. First trucks usually show up around 7 a.m. and that gets a fast turnaround. That was one little comment that I wish you would take a look at. And the emergencies, if we had something in here that said, okay, we had a flood last year or the year before now. Is there any way we can call the police chief, the building inspector, and say, hey, look, they need some gravel and it's an emergency. We want to let you know because you might get phone calls. And you'll have the answer before you'll get the call, and that's what we want. And so that everybody stays calm. If there could be something in there, who do we call to say that we're going to have to be operating here Sunday morning because there was a bridge washout, and who would we contact?
Yeah, town manager, and,
Well, it says earth removal may not be conducted.
Accept the permission.
Authorization of town's building zoning official, the shall.
Is that going to be the guy?
That's what it says in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what this says.
All right, and everybody's happy with calling the building inspector, because is he the one, the reason I asked is he the one that is going to be called by a neighbor who's wanting to know why there's dump trucks running in and out of the gravel pit on a Sunday morning?
I have to tell you, it doesn't happen that fast. Usually, if it was, let's say it's a Sunday morning and a neighbor gets upset, it usually doesn't happen that fast, but usually what they probably do is call somebody on the council. And then we'd let the manager know, but unfortunately, things just don't move that fast. So the information comes in, and then eventually Monday morning, the building and zoning would hear about it, he'd give you a call.
Okay.
Or stop
So
in and
you're all
say
set
hello.
with that?
Yeah,
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
that would be a fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Oh, sir, as far as the hours of operation, specifically, what were you suggesting? Was it weekdays or other than the emergencies?
Friday, maybe 6:30 in the morning, 6 PM, I think we can all live with, I can live with that.
So it was the morning thing?
Yeah, just to
Okay.
get that half an hour, that would get us a chance to get things warmed up, ready to go, and get the first truck out on the road on time.
If you're starting at 6:30 in the morning, because we're talking about earth removal, then real noise takes place, I would guess, on the earth removal. If you're warming up machinery, is that really noisy?
Yeah, it depends on who you're asking, I think. If you're warming it up and you back it over to the fuel pump and the backup alarm goes off, people are gonna hear
Oh, yeah,
that.
that would be noisy. You're right.
But I don't ever remember a call coming in, any complaint about your business. Just for your information. Has anybody ever gotten a call about that business?
No.
I hear it
So-
walking the dog. but
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening. John Barth, Stubbtown Road. I manage Earth Care Farm in Charlestown. How fast would the response have to be if you were called for sand and salt mix in the middle of a storm? It would have to be a fast response. So would you be fined that $500 a day for non-compliance for working on the Sunday, starting on that one day?
If someone called you because there was a storm and they needed sand?
Well, or any kind of emergency thing, a bridge is out and they need gravel to backfill the road. If someone called and complained, would that $500 a day fine start?
You would call the building and zoning inspector and let him know that, hey, we have
This
an
is
emergency,
happening.
we have to bring this.
Okay.
And he's gonna give you the authorization right then and there. And after that, there is no fine. When
Okay.
you've got the authorization, that's the person through the ordinance that you're gonna be contacting with.
But of course, when he makes the phone call, he's gonna get an answering machine, there's gonna be anybody there, so you can just leave your information. But I'll ask another question for the record. When was the last time there was ever a $500 fine on anybody?
Well, yeah,
So
but you
it's
don't-
not
we
something
don't-
that routinely happens.
Yeah, but we also don't pass ordinances intending not to enforce
Of
them.
course, of course.
If somebody is out there
Purposely,
taking action and
Advantage.
you haven't gotten pre-authorization, then you're gonna get fined.
Okay.
But so you've got it, so we've given you an out. You call the building zoning official, you get his okay, you're fine.
But usually if it's on the weekend though, right, could we incorporate that something with, if Brad's not around, the EMA new person, if eventually if we get an EMA person, or Bill or someone that might be around to, because if leaving a voicemail, I can see the concern,
Well,
Would that be acceptable?
then you gotta wait till the next day.
have you ever had to provide salt or sand in the middle of a,
Not in the business that, I'm just talking about potential things that people in this town will have to go through. I mean, if you get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning to do something for a storm, I mean, you're obviously not gonna call someone at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you have to move at the speed of business, because if you don't make that delivery, they're gonna call someone else.
I also
They'll call
think that-
Richmond Sand and Gravel or someone in Westerly.
But I mean, I think this is a small town, and if you don't reach the building zoning, all of our numbers are in the book. The town manager, we can reach immediately. Maybe he has a special phone call to Brad where he can reach him, but there are 5 of us that can be reached as well as Brad.
Town's website.
And, I mean, no one's on the website usually in the weekend, but we can certainly reach the town manager at any time. Our phone numbers are up, so that you can try to reach someone as quickly as possible, because I do understand that can happen, a bridge washout or something, and you'll need to handle that right away. But in that case, if you don't reach Brad, because you should try him first, you certainly can reach any of us. We'll reach Bill, because we have his cell phone, the poor man, and then he'll reach whoever he needs, but it will be done as quickly as is physically possible.
Okay. And I just had a couple other comments. Stating the purpose of this ordinance is to save the roads and limit the commercial, truck traffic in the town, but these commercial trucks are carrying materials that are taxed. The fuel in the tank's taxed, the registration is a tax, the inspection is a tax, the overweight permits are taxes. If you're eliminating these sources of revenue, what's going to pay for the roads on the state and the town level? I mean, it's not per se these trucks that are damaging the town roads. It's improper pitches of roads, improper bedding of roads, improper management of drain culverts. It's not necessarily heavy truck traffic that is affecting these roads. So I just would like the town council to take that into consideration when you're thinking about these things. And another thing I didn't see in this version of the ordinance is any kind of exemptions for agriculture. I know other towns,
They already are.
Charlestown, South Kingstown, have certain exemptions from things like this through agriculture, and you have to go through DEM and everything also. So I just think that this ordinance is kind of redundant when you have EPA rules and regulations that you have to come over, DEM rules and regulations that you have to come under, and it just seems that this ordinance is forcing Hopkinton officials to enforce state and federal rules and regulations.
well, I'll point out that right on the first page, this is only to be for earth removal for commercial purposes.
But if one of these earth removal operations in town gains agricultural status, what would be
I believe if it's
transition.
agriculture, they have their own rules, and they bypass. We didn't deal with it because they have their own grandfathering, they have their own ways of doing things. This is specifically on earth removal, not on agriculture, not on a farm, because they are out of that loop. And we had that discussion 6 months ago.
Okay,
6 or
that
7.
was the meeting at the
Really,
schoolhouse.
but it really was one where we really, it's avoided because it's not there. It just doesn't exist for us to deal with under this ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to mention one thing. The review period process of 90 days, that's got to go around to all the committees in the town. 180 days?
Oh, wait a minute, it's the application that has to be submitted within
I'm
90
sorry, yeah.
days. So it has to be submitted. Now, if it takes the town 6 months or a year to go through everything, that's the town's issue, not yours.
Okay, that's
You
fine.
have to submit it in 90 days, and I wondered if this got passed in a month, everybody's gonna do it in 90 days? And I thought that sounded awful short. So that's what I wanted to
They
hear.
actually have a lot of the work already done. All the DEM.
No, that's why I just
Yeah,
threw it
the
out there.
DEM stuff is already done, they already have that. They have the other one you mentioned, RIED something. Those are already accomplished. They
This
have those before they
90-day
can
thing is
start.
only affecting the gravel bank operators at this present time to get up to speed.
Right, it's for
So, I mean, it's
registration
not the new
purposes.
ones or anything like that that are gonna open up.
Right.
What would you do if 2 or 3 years from now, you had a new guy come in? Would it be 90 days after he breaks ground, or?
No, he would know because, it's 90 days because everything is really grandfathered, you're all working, you already have most of the things that we need. It's if someone wants to plan on being a gravel bank, then they know that there's an ordinance, they should get all those pieces together, and they're ready to go.
Okay, like
I
a
mean-
subdivision master plan application or something
Yeah,
like that?
basically,
Yeah,
yeah.
they
Yeah.
should already have
Okay.
that, they would have to be
Okay.
aware
This is
of it.
basically, the 90-day thing, I think, is for the operators already in existence.
Yeah, it's-
Somebody
To-
new would have to do it before they
Yeah.
took any earth out.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone want a second go around? Yes.
Is this a permit or a license, or how are we calling this? I know it says registration or
Registration
application.
application.
So,
Annual,
what is it?
annually, so.
It's annual. And
But she wonders what it's
Are you granting something?
Is she-
at the end? Are you giving them a permit or?
You're giving them a license, like the
license,
haulers,
or
an annual license?
It's a registration.
registration? Okay. We're gonna call it a registration?
And D on 102D,
Show me the application.
Okay. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
On the last page, it states suit under 105, 106 penalties B, suit may be brought in Hopkinton Municipal Court to our municipal court ordinances for that?
Well, it might in
Yeah,
the
it
future.
might.
Oh, it does now?
No, the municipal court ordinance is not a problem. The problem is appending the ability to go there to other things, which this would do.
Do you have anything else, Lisa?
Once we receive, after the 90 days, if that's the date, if that's the time frame we use, and they apply to my office, are we going to target like a month during the year? If this is going to be...
Oh, for renewals?
Are we going to be sending out letters reminding people? To what extent is the office going to be involved as far as, I'm just worried about the process.
You're wondering about who's also...
About the process.
Okay, so if they come in, they've gone through the process, and then a year later, they need to, I want to get the right language, re-register?
I'm wondering if there's going to be like an anniversary date type of thing? You're going to have a month of the year that...
But they're all going to end up being different, because, let's say 5 people submit, there might be 4 that are simple, and then 1 takes a little longer. So they're all going to have different dates ultimately.
Okay.
They'll all have a year that will, because based upon when they get approved.
Was that going to be confusing?
I'm not sure that we
Try not
would.
to make it
If you,
No.
if once the ordinance is passed, if it's passed, but once it's passed, you have 90 days, which means everybody has to come to register in 90 days. And it seems to me that that would be the anniversary date, is the 3 months later. And then in the following years, it would just follow it that same month.
So we'll have to
Just
come
have to
up
keep track of it.
Yes, we
with an
keep track.
application that has all the sign-offs by various officials, like we do with our
Mhm.
tax stabilization application.
Sure.
It has-
Yes.
Sign off information.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
But I'm not clear on the date, on the anniversary. For instance, Pat, my thinking is that 5 people come in, they all get approved at different dates for a variety of reasons. Maybe some take longer going through the boards, commissions, whatever. So they're all going to have different dates, so therefore, when they re-register, they'll all re-registering at a different time, agreed? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, I'm just trying to make sure.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Okay. Council? Any other questions? Scott, did you have anything?
I just want to go through just observations. I was very critical of the process a year ago because I think that this situation can happen to other ordinances or on other topics. I want to go through as far as the 90 days, the law usually, and I'm not a lawyer, but the law is what the law is interpreted literally usually, and so it would seem that it would be should be new or to continue is the word. I don't know if 90 days would be too restrictive.
That's why we asked them.
You don't know
Well,
other
you need to
people.
keep in mind that this was subcommittee to death.
Mhm.
Bill
Yeah.
and George Camoli, Barbara, forgive me, I don't know who else was involved, but this was brought about as an agreement among the town and the operators. So as you're kind of nitpicking it, remember that this was something that is an agreed upon document among everybody who's going to deal with this.
No, I mean, I've stated a year ago my concerns of the procedural way that this was handled, because this could be done for other ordinances. And there's a feeling in town that we need to update our ordinances on other topics.
Next question.
While you're thinking, I wonder, the issue of the 6:30 in the morning, I was just curious, does that, anybody have any
They have a
particular problem with
consensus, I
that?
think if Mr. Camoli and his clients...
No, I'm asking,
Oh.
you don't have a problem with it?
I don't have a problem with it.
How about you, Barbara?
I don't think I do have a problem with it, because the reason being is that the school has children on buses by 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning. So people are already up, already moving, already doing their family affairs, getting to work, getting kids out. So I don't have a problem with 6:30 a.m. because I don't know a family who works who isn't up and
Yeah.
functioning.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with 6:30, because I figure you've probably already been doing 6:30, and we haven't never gotten a complaint.
Well, the time cards say 7 o'clock, but I know they're starting it up at 7:30, especially on cold mornings. I mean, at 6:30.
So you really do need warming up. You're not really
Yeah.
working yet, they're just
Yeah,
turning on the
exactly.
They're not. Lisa, you want to comment?
Does the noise ordinance require certain time frames? It seems to me there's something that says 11 and 7, quiet, I don't know. if
Oh,
that's-
then we'll have to check that. Okay. All right, we'll look at
or
that.
just an ordinance.
I know I'd be nitpicking, but usually,
I don't have a problem with
I just wondered,
6:30 then.
she's always trying to get a flavor for things. Oh, Scott?
well, first of all, I think usually on a Saturday, 6:30, a lot of people do try to get to sleep, even though kids are up during
So I
weekends.
think they're talking
I'm at
about
work.
6:30
Not
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, forget the Saturday, yeah.
As far as do you think that emergencies should be defined, and also
No.
in light of the building and zoning official that fall into the town manager, since the building and zoning official reports to the town manager, and for some reason the town building and zoning official is not around, and he might not be able to reach by cell phone or whatever.
I just don't think we need to do a whole sequence of human beings that someone has to reach. This is a small town, they can reach any of us at any time.
You have anything else, Scott?
copy of the
No,
noise
I don't have
ordinance.
any other notes.
Oh, thank you. Boy, aren't you right on the ball tonight? Let's see, here's the noise ordinance. Let's see, look up for any hours. Yeah, you're right, Lisa. The playing of any radio, phonograph, or any musical instrument in such a manner or with such volume, particularly between the hours of 11 and 7 a.m. as to annoy, disturb. But they're referencing the playing of radio, okay, yeah, music.
They're referencing
But yeah,
recreation.
yelling, shouting, hooting, there's more. Let's see, use of any, all right, let's see, no shouting between
That's tough to do.
hooting, whistling, or singing on public streets.
So you guys can't
revise
hold
No
these.
singing. Let's
Don't
see.
whistle while you work.
Use of any automobile. Well, I'm not
We'll
gonna
look at
read all
it.
this now, but, we'll have to read all that. I don't think that was an issue, but we'll have to look at this and read the entire thing. I think there was whistling was not allowed.
You know, just as a point of information, Barbara and I do look close to the
Me
Morone
too.
Crider. In fact, it affects our property and support. And that's right now just a pit, and there's another one on
The other side?
Lutheran Church.
I have two.
Pretty much has been excavated, but I plan to support this, but I'm more concerned about the procedural aspect of it in regard to other ordinances in the future.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and set a date to consider adoption of the ordinance.
Second that?
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
For all your help.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Finally. We finally listened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I see you think your next council meeting is Tuesday, the 24th.
Good for me.
Sounds good.
The next council meeting, is that all right?
Yep, February 21st, fine with me.
Pat, does that sound good? Okay, all right.
We don't need a motion to set that.
No.
Motion to sit as a licensing board? I
Second.
need to do that for you.
So moved. We're gonna roll with our meeting. Okay, there was a motion to sit as a licensing board. Is there a second?
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Commercial hall license, CWPM. This has been continued from January 17th, and you still haven't had any contact? No. No, okay, no. So I think we just don't bother to list this anymore. And I suppose should we follow it up with a letter to him?
CWPM?
No, the other one.
Exactly.
I've been to-
So we have CWPM, I thought we were just on that. I didn't see anything else.
What was the other one?
The other one is budget waste disposal.
Well, there's only one on the agenda.
Right. And they're not talking, so.
Well, I think that we should, if we're not giving them the license, we need to let the chief of the police department know to keep an eye out for that.
We are,
Is that
I got the two mixed up. CWPM is here.
Is here.
And is applying. It's the other one. Thank you, Barbara. Now I know what you're
Okay.
talking about. Okay.
I'd like a motion to grant a license to do CWPM, filing fee received.
Yes.
Second that?
Is there any discussion? Is there anyone from the public that had any comment about CWPM commercial license hauler? Nope. Okay. Any comment from the council? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
And now you're going to cancel this one. through
The other one
piece with the
will
police.
just, yeah, that would be a
Tom's
good
comment.
idea
We need
to,
to let the
the police know that this
Tom's
is,
chief know
comment.
that, keep an eye open for this.
That's budget, right?
and
Budget.
like, give it, to- and
Is that what
Bill,
it is?
can you I mean, I know our chief's here, but can you send that over to the chief?
Oh, yeah, I've already got it.
Oh, you've got the approved
prepared.
list.
okay.
Yeah, oh, okay,
So
right.
I'll get everything
Right.
together.
So just to clarify, is it budget? What's the name of the company that didn't budget?
The one that,
Budget waste removal.
what was it, budget waste?
Budget waste removal.
They didn't reapply.
They did not
Maybe they've gone
reapply.
out of business.
I don't know, I think I saw them in my neighborhood.
Well, they did not, and she tried both phone numbers. Lisa has been very
Okay.
busy.
Oh, yeah,
trying
no,
to
I don't
reach
doubt that,
them.
I'm just saying, I think,
I
You
think
some
have
people
that
aren't good with paperwork.
when you send over, could you let them specifically know
Yes.
that this one is no longer licensed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn as licensing board and reconvene as council.
Second.
Well, who shall we give that one?
Go ahead, no, go ahead. I don't.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up, consent agenda.
I want to pull all the town council meetings.
Okay.
Motion to approve $65 from the town council contingency for bereavement wreath for Miss Josephine, and accept the following report, animal control official.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Scott?
Yeah, I got them all here. Pumps and, in some cases, why don't we do January 3rd?
It's a good place to start.
All right, make
You
sure you
just
tell
give
us
us
the
a
page
page.
when you get to it.
This one's the problem is it was, I saw one of these things that said that Attorney Landolfi, I don't know. if
Well, I
you-
already got, I got a handle on that one, Scott. It's page 20. I got promoted, so I'm happy with that, Lisa.
Okay, so page 20.
Page 20, second, last paragraph. This led to discussion of Attorney Landolfi, if we can
I know they
scratch the
must be
attorney
all
part. I
being
did take
really-
political science, but I didn't pursue
You
it.
didn't get your.
I didn't pursue it.
You just didn't get your exam. Okay.
No, there's two poli-sci graduates from Rhode. My circle.
Why don't we do this at the next council meeting,
Yeah.
and you make sure you mark the pages ahead of time, okay?
I did mark.
Well, okay, why don't you try to get to them, please?
Highlight them next time.
Yeah, highlight them, tag the page.
Then the corner over.
We don't mind you doing it, just move along.
Why don't we just do them the next meeting?
Okay.
Well,
I actually have one more correction.
And it'd be good if you do have that prepared ahead of time.
Well, I
Okay.
did circle.
Okay, so did you find your circles?
Why don't you look while, let
Okay,
Frank do this
on
thing. What
bottom
page are
of
we on?
16, I don't know if camouflage.
What page are we on?
This is on the minutes of January 23rd. And the voting, so voted, it's on the very first page. My name's spelled wrong, that's it. So I get promoted and demoted.
Oh, yeah,
Where is it?
So
Oh.
voted, it's Council Landolph, it's, the F is missing, so
yep,
that's all.
it's second one down.
The so voted,
Second so voted down, or the first so voted.
First so voted paragraph. My name is spelled,
So on
Ah,
page
there it
20
is, I got it.
No
Okay.
F.
Page 22 and others, Kathy Brayman's spelled with a C.
Are you on, which minutes are you
23rd?
on?
January 3rd.
January 3rd, page 23?
No, 22 and 23 both.
Whose name is spelled wrong?
She's the deputy town clerk in Westerly, Kathy Brayman.
Well,
And where is it?
it's,
I'm pretty sure. it's
how
C.
is it spelled?
I believe she does it C. See her
oh,
name
instead
on
of
it.
K.
The other thing that I thought was confusing, it
Did you
says,
find that, Lisa? Okay.
some report Cynthia Jones was president, commented she had learned the average district was comprised of 14,000.
Are you on page 23?
Yes.
Okay.
Hopkins population going to the district.
But where are you? Wait, I know you finally found it.
Toward the
but-
bottom.
Toward the bottom, thank you. Okay.
So the district now has 15,000 voters exceeding the criteria. I think I mentioned it also includes part of Westerly. Westerly is still in the mix. There's a population of Hopkins of 8,000 roughly. I don't know if that should be clearer.
So you mean like Hopkinton's and Westerly's population had grown, so the district now had 15,000 voters?
Well, actually,
Hopkinton's.
maybe I said Hopkins' population was actually District 38, I think. Or
Oh, maybe District 38's population had grown, so the district now had 15,000 voters?
Yeah, I'm just trying to
Yeah, that's-
remember.
If that's correct. That would be more,
I don't know.
So what were your
Succinct.
comments, dear?
Yeah, the minutes are just to reflect what was said
Which is
at the
said, right or
meeting.
wrong,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
right, that's right.
It's not
Whatever
to-
was said.
I
Take
won't
another
object,
shot.
I won't object to it,
Right.
but it was basically the district has grown. You know, 24 Deborah, it's Deborah, D-E-B-O-R-E-H.
So we're not
page
changing
24?
anything?
Not on that.
Page 24.
No. It's Deborah Conn, and that's it.
Where,
What's wrong
you gotta
with
tell us
that?
which line.
It's like 7 from the top.
Yeah.
Deborah Carney,
Yeah.
Mr. Vecchio, Deborah Carr, and Georgiera.
Yeah.
That line?
What about-
best,
What's wrong with
It's supposed to be,
I
I'm
think-
pretty sure her name is D-E-B-O-R-E-H.
yeah, probably the best thing is just say Ms. Carney
There you go.
and kill the Deborah.
Is that it with the third?
Ms. Cook Line has got a comment to the commission. It should be a-
Where?
1, 2, 3.
What page?
Page 3, 6 up, January 17th.
Oh, it's through over there.
This stuff can always be done.
I know,
Too,
this is
before the
tiny,
meeting.
you know,
Yeah.
little edits. and
Yeah,
things
you can do
get
that before
done
the meeting with
Lisa.
the
Yeah, I
Lisa.
read these today, so I apologize for that.
Well, I mean, you know, we can always delay these sorts of things, but I've talked to Lisa about it, and she says it's all right. She would prefer to, it doesn't bother her at all to do these now, but
Why don't
it
we,
also can be done with her.
why don't we present these at the next meeting? And I know I'm being picky.
Yeah, why don't we not? First of all, we finished with January 3rd, so let's finish.
Okay.
And, you
Do you
know,
have much more, Scott?
I don't know under the third where I did a C or an E.
which page?
We're on
Top of three,
page
under the
3,
three.
on the 7th of January.
I don't know if
7th.
that's a C or an E, I'm trying to figure that out.
For what?
In the
C or an
memorial resolution, whether that's a C or an E. Pretty tough to move through.
I don't know where you
I have
are.
no idea where you're
You gotta say
talking.
the minutes, Scott, the
I wish
date.
I looked who was doing.
All right, I tell you what.
1, 2, 3
We're gonna,
down.
we're gonna delay, we're gonna table this, and then you're gonna sit down with Lisa, and you're gonna show her whatever
Yeah.
changes you
And they're
want.
all
Spelling,
minor- they're all minor
spelling
changes.
things should be taken
Editing,
care of.
yeah, you don't have
If
to do that
there's-
at a meeting.
I'll try not to read the minutes today.
If there's context is what we should be going over, not
Right.
Yeah.
graphic,
Grammatical errors.
yeah.
Little things you can talk to her privately, nobody's gonna worry
Yeah.
about
But
So
that.
why don't
spelling
we
is
just
the way-
adopt the January 3rd?
All right, motion to adopt town council meeting minutes of January 3rd, 2012.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And picky is fine, though, just, you can do it before the meeting or after the meeting.
Well, I know I look serious doing it.
I just,
Well, no, that's,
I have one for the 17th.
well, then you're gonna talk to Lisa. Is it a substantial or
Yes.
typing?
Okay.
Where are you?
Okay.
For the fireworks donation, I
Where is
recuse
page-
myself.
Where's page, what page?
I don't know,
You're right, that is important.
page 9. Just above it says so voted. If you look in favor,
yeah.
it says Thompson, Buck, Calver, Hurst.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Logan.
that's important.
I recuse myself.
Yes, you did.
So that needed to be, that was the only thing I had.
I appreciate you all reading that.
Oh, yes, we do.
I know I'm a pain in the neck.
No, you're
No,
not.
we all read them. It's just that typos like that or tiny things you can do ahead of time. You don't have to do it in public, like Lisa
Well, I
can't
just read them
spell.
today, so I apologize for doing that.
Okay.
Make a motion, we
It's all right,
accept the
we'll
minutes
do
of...
them at the next
We already made a
meeting.
motion to just accept the minutes of January 3rd.
Well, the
I'm sorry,
third
the
is done.
17th.
Yep.
We can accept
Are you
those.
finished with the 17th?
We're,
Why don't we just do both of them next week?
we're gonna do
weeks.
17 and 23
Oh,
at the next
okay.
council
That's
meeting.
fine.
Anybody's got any minor changes, they can let Lisa know.
Good.
Okey dokey. Okay. First public forum. Anybody like to speak at the first public forum?
No takers.
Okay. Council President's report. First one up is the issue of the tree warden. Apparently, we need to get this done, so I was just gonna ask Lisa if she could advertise for it.
As far as the tree warden goes, do they have to be a resident of Hopkinton?
No.
No.
Okay, well, I may have somebody.
Okay. So the way that we would advertise, we'd have it on the website. Is this something that we want to put in the newspaper? Is there anything else that we're
We
going to
have
be
to
putting
do
into the
something, I
newspaper?
mean, it is state law.
Well, I'm talking to Lisa. Is there anything else that we'll be advertising? Are we up or due for anything in particular?
No.
No,
To
but you
add
do
with
have, you do think you have someone in mind?
Well,
Yeah, I just gotta talk to him.
my question is, where's the guy we had last year?
Well, he
He
left.
resigned.
He left, he
Yeah.
resigned.
We've
Okay.
got, let me just give you he's gone, but
Okay.
we also don't have any money in the budget in that, so we have to put money in, we have to have a stipend. And I asked Lisa, I think it was around 800, 700 or 800, which was the stipend that we did have in the past for the tree warden. So, but we need to advertise, and if we did it on the website, is everybody satisfied that we could try that first?
Yes.
No, I think,
Yes, I'm
It's
satisfied.
cheapest.
Can I speak about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I am. I mean, if you're going to have to do it, then I think you can do it on the website. I realize it's a state law, but I think it's relatively useless for the small rural towns. We have millions of trees. We do not, our forestry programs are under DEM, under Nature Conservancy, under people that are extremely well versed in their lands. Our public trees are on very specific areas. We have trees by the side of the road everywhere, and our public works takes care of everything. Our
Yes.
public works takes care of pruning, planting, cutting down, taking them down. I'm sure National Grid and the state on occasion take trees down, but in an emergency, as we have had, our public works takes them down. No one else does fast enough. This is, I think, a position that is not useful. So if we can do it as inexpensively as possible, the website is a great place to start, because it's not a useful position for a town that is covered with trees. We cannot keep track by GES of all our trees. One of the reasons that you have a tree ordinance, a tree warden, is to help you get all these grants for trees, none of which we need. Because we don't need street trees, we don't need park trees. We have parks, we are covered with parks, we are covered with forests. So we don't use the grants that they have available because we actually generally don't need them. Once in a while you can. I have done that in the past. It was not worthwhile. Just wasn't.
Okay, I also want to point out that the tree warden, whenever we get one, does not have to physically cut the trees down. They just have to say yes or no. And they would be saying yes or no to our public works. So there might be somebody in public works who wants to take this on.
I think you have to be a certified arborist,
Yes.
too.
That's right,
You
you have
do.
6 months to become one if you're selected. So if we select someone that
See?
says, that's just exactly what I want to do, they have 6 months to become licensed. So,
I like,
but meanwhile, we can at
possibility.
least advertise.
Yeah, that's a good possibility, too.
no, I think we need to advertise because this is not a typical appointment because people do have to become an arborist. It isn't like a board or commission, and I'm not putting those people down that volunteer for the town. But if people have to go through a process where you have to have a certain type of credential,
We still should start with the town.
Well, I don't have a
because-
problem putting it on
Because
the
the town
website,
man, the town warden's, tree warden's supposed to be from in town. So anything we can do to find someone in town and put our money where our mouth is in town, I would certainly prefer doing than out of town. If we can't find someone, then I think we should try out of town.
Okay, so we'll put it on the website.
Right. And last year, when this came up, we sent letters out to potential interested parties, and there were no takers.
and you know, the thing is, not a lot of people look at the website, and that's why,
It's a good place to start.
I know it's expensive to do with a private funeral, but I mean, you would think that somebody that's in that type of business would, might be interested in doing it. I don't think a lot of people are likely, although it could happen, we're gonna get an arborist or a tree warden just by posting on the website. Maybe we will, and Tom knows somebody, so maybe that will be a good fit for the town. But I don't think the website is necessarily gonna get us a tree warden in most cases.
And I think at
Well,
least
we
let's
just
start
can't-
there.
We just, yeah, we
Sylvia's
can't
right.
spend the amount of money that,
Yeah.
you know, the person's only gonna get probably $800. Are we gonna spend $400 on ads? It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Anyway.
At least let's start. Sylvia's right.
Yep.
All right, okay, so that's that.
Thank you. Moving on.
Next one is simple, it's the RIDM Seasonal Summer Employment Program. And anyone who's interested in some summer work, it comes up every year. For a seasonal job, they're looking for college or a college intern job within agricultural, fish and wildlife, forest, environment, water resources, wastewater management, even the division of park and recreations to staff the parks. And they're looking for lifeguards, they look for lots of things every year. And it pays everywhere from $750 to, hey, come on.
Ranger Rick.
Yeah, well, actually, let's see, a ranger is actually up to $8. And the other ones, they got lifeguards and
There's lots of people.
groundskeeper, and on and on and on it goes. So anyway, so that, and if anybody's interested, they can call Janice Thurston at 222-2774, extension 4602. The other one is from, the next one on the agenda is from the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, and they're looking for college kids. They have a college student employment program. So this is this one we don't hear about too often. This application deadline would be April 15th, and they're looking for students who would help the state with their transportation program. Apparently they've got some money to spend.
I was at a function Saturday, and I ran into Bob Wiegand. He's the vice president at URI. Used to be, I think, a U.S. rep. Anyway, I told him about that, and I said, you know, is there anybody here at the university? It seemed like it's mainly geared to engineering, so I said, maybe I could just forward it to you, and you can put it on the student union website or whatever. So that's what I was going to do, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sure, why
So,
not?
see what happens.
Well, anybody interested in this should go to www.dot.ri.gov/human resources.
And it probably is everything from flaggers to people who
Well, yeah, it
actually
gets a little more
work.
specific in there, bridge design, construction and
it's
stuff.
good.
So it seems more geared to engineering. so that's
Or
why-
construction, you know, anyone who wants to, you know, build roads or build big things.
Civil engineering.
It's a great
Even,
idea.
Even computer information
Right.
systems too.
Mhm.
Yep.
Very good.
Legal services. Want some part-time work, Pat?
No.
No.
I'll pass.
The next one is the issue with the lights, and I know Bill has been getting a lot of calls. What I put this on the agenda because I wanted specifically to ask you, the council, to reconsider this program. As you know, we've shut off 194 lights. Bill informed me it's all been done. The 100, just for a review, the 194 that got shut off were out of 696, which was 27.87% of what we had. It boiled down to about $91 per light to remove. And we were gonna, the annual cost savings would be around $20,000. What I was gonna ask you to do tonight, and I'll tell you why I'm going to ask, but I was going to ask you to reconsider it, the removal of some of these lights. And Bill's gotten in about 24 phone calls from residents. I've gotten in about half that, and they're
So have I.
duplicates. They're duplicates. They're people that have said, I've called the manager, I've called National Grid, I've called the clerk's office, I've called the police department, I've called Brian Kennedy. So not everybody did all that, but some of these people have. The reasons they're giving were all over. It was from young people and old people, men and women. Some of them, some of it was fear, some of it was problems with the neighborhood, whether there was some criminal activity going on nearby. Some of them, it had to do with there had been accidents on the road. But it all boiled down to, there was a lot of fear, but I'll give you an example. Somebody called and she said, I asked to have the light installed in 1965. The town council said, okay, and it just went in, and that's our problem. And, you know, everybody asks for a light, and they just get it. For no reason, they just get a light, because they asked for it. So now we have as many lights as we had. So she said, I asked for the light in 1965, and it's been there since 1965. And she just wants her light back. There were people, and it amounted to the view. They got used to it. She said, you look outside and it's dark. I mean, Tom and I mean, we joke about it. We've got flashlights. We don't want lights. We've never wanted them. We don't need them. You got lights on your headlights. I mean, the two of us, I think, have been after lights for years.
I remember when you and Chef Niles were gonna go shoot all the streetlights out in town.
That's one way to get rid of it.
But anyway, let me finish that. So these people they called, they're very polite, but they really, really were upset. And I think that there's something we could do. There's two options. We could put it to a referendum where the people just say, you know, do you want us to shut these lights off, or do you want them turned back on? If you do that, then if it's turned back on, 100% it's going to come back on. The other option I like better, and Bill suggested it, and that was that we just turn on the lights that people have a problem with. And that might amount to maybe 30 lights or just 15%. And I looked at the savings, so instead of getting 20,000 off for an annual cost, it'd be 17,000. But these people were they were really, really, really upset. And I was firm, and I said, you know, one guy said, well, why was it that light? Why wasn't it his light? And I said, well, you know, he'll probably lose his light, but you're not going to get your light back. I mean, I told him we weren't going to get the lights back. But, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to upset these people so much.
I get a couple calls, and I think they're probably duplicates to a couple other council folks, but, I don't think that for the number of calls that we've gotten, a lot of them are duplicates. I don't see why we can't just turn them on. That's my thoughts.
Oh, and Lisa, I asked her, because I didn't know if you were going to be here tonight, so I asked Lisa to look up in the record. I wondered how much is it going to cost to turn lights back on?
Doesn't cost anything.
There's no fee.
No.
So if you want a light back on, at least it's not
Bill
going to cost.
confirmed that
many-
with National Grid. That doesn't
How
cost
many
anything,
got-
right? To the town,
How many got removed?
194.
194?
No, I meant not shut off, removed
Removed.
off.
194.
They were all removed.
They're all removed.
Removed. We didn't shut off, we removed.
We didn't shut off the lights. We actually removed the lights and the fixtures that attach them to the pole.
Right.
Okay, now, if we're gonna put these lights back on, here's our opportunity.
To have a strict policy.
You got it.
Yep.
We got a dark sky ordinance in town, so we don't need these big vapor lights and stuff like that.
Yep.
I
We need to
would- I
develop
would-
that strict policy, and from now on, and when we will, as every council has done this, everybody's to blame for allowing this to happen. But if we put together a policy that it's only due to safety by, an intersection, or it's on a curb, we ought to define curb, but if it's only a safety issue, from now on, we can at least say no. And no more new lights, except these people who call and they give us the poll number. If that light's been turned off, that can go back on, but no more future lights, unless it's an emergency situation. So, Lisa?
I want to consider it. I think it's just been brought up. I understand your point of view, and I understand when people get upset about it. Sometimes I think it is wise to take a look at the problem and say, yes, it makes good sense. Other times it's just, well, I want it. And we all know especially in this economy, we don't just get what we want. I think it's worth considering and seeing how we want to do it. It's not that I would say not to, because I think there are times that it is a very good option. I've gone out to see two in particular that we did put back up. I thought it was for very good reasons. I don't have any problem with it. But I think I'd just like to consider this and see how we want to pursue.
Lisa, you have a comment?
Councilor Rushnet.
I do, you got something?
I have something else.
You have something?
I did.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lisa.
In those minutes, there was some reference as to the type of lights that, if somebody wanted them replaced, would they be put in with an energy efficient? There was a term in those minutes. So that when you request, if it should come up, that when you request a light to be
Installed.
installed.
You make sure it's in the energy
That it's
efficient
one
one.
of those.
Mhm.
In regards to the process, I know that Public Works had implemented a process where somebody would request the light, there was some sort of report that they go out and
And look
they
at
would
it.
be following this particular process, and,
And they always said, okay.
well, that could be, but at least there was a process.
There was a
Right.
process, we just would like it to be stricter.
Well, maybe Public Works, if that's what you choose to do, there should be something on there that, criteria, what have you, and then it has to go to the council to consider it again.
Right.
We need to get a
That's-
copy
yeah,
of that.
That's right, it exists now,
Put
right.
that in our packet for the next.
Chief Palmer, I think he had a question.
Scott, you had something you wanted to bring up?
Does the
Chief-
wanna
Chief
speak
Palmer had
about
something.
the-
Oh.
Let you know that I spoke to Paul Stasiak with National Grid. There is a $25 fee to reinstall that.
To reinstall lights that we've had removed?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I've been told by National Grid. There may have been a change in policy, but it certainly is well worth recontacting them to find out exactly what their position is on it. It may be that, I've been told that there's, by Marissa Albanese, that there's no cost, but perhaps with, that may not be, regardless of the number of lights. If there are an excessive number of lights that they have to put up, I'm sure they're not going to be
There might be a fee.
too pleased, so.
Tom, why are you speaking about?
Okay, we need to realize why we decided to send out the police department third shift to look at every streetlight in town. One, we found 30 of them, Bill, that weren't even lit, 15 that weren't even there, that were being charged for. And over the last 5 years, this council has cut our municipal budget so dramatically that we're trying to keep the tax rate as low as we can, but we have no control over the school budget, and that's what is killing us. So we're trying to look outside the box in order to find other ways to save money. I mean, like I said before, we've cut $50 from a line item. We've reduced the number of police officers. We've reduced the number of public works over the last 5 years. We're just finding it very difficult to find places to legitimately cut of any significance. And that's why the streetlights came up probably well over a year ago. And we just finally got around to really looking into it, and when Bill got here to take the bull by the horns, so to say, and looked into it. I too have got a number of phone calls concerning streetlights. And if it's the 30 people, I mean, I've heard some different things, and we still haven't. One of the, probably the most outrageous one that I've heard, it's not outrageous, because it's their legitimate concern, is that we still have an unsolved murder in town. That was the best one.
It's a rural community. It is a dark sky community.
And like other residents have told me, that's why they put headlights on cars. Just to-
I still think the savings is going to be realized for the most part. If it's not 20, it's maybe 17. I think I agree with Sylvia. So if we don't have a lot out of 194 complaining, I went out to the sites myself, the ones that called me and personally
Right.
looked
Me
at
too.
them. I
I've
asked
done
Bill
it for a
and
couple.
Chief Palmer to do the same. And I think that, you know, with the folks that are complaining, I think if they're legitimate, I think they should be put back on. I don't think it really
agree-
dent
I
the
agree
amount
with
of
you, Frank.
savings. I think it's minuscule in terms of the overall picture.
But I also, when we put these lights back up, we should have some kind of choice as to what type of light is going back up there.
Yeah,
National
I
Grid
think-
has a number of different type of streetlights that would be
Yeah.
able to decide on.
Energy efficient.
Actually, the one you should talk to is probably Don Simmons on the planning board, since he's a lighting engineer. And he would know, because really you're talking about high-pressure sodiums or you're talking about metal halides, because I'm a lighting designer too. There's only a few things you can do, and they're still reviewing and discussing LED. LED is not out there yet as a standard street light, because it's far too expensive. But they are doing the research in Bristol and in Newport by National Grid to see what they want to use. So I think probably Don Simmons at the planning board would be able to review it more thoroughly with the most knowledge to find out what is the most efficient light to put back up that they offer, because they don't offer everything. And I do think that we should look at each of these individually and go out and take a look, as I know Frank has done, I have done when someone called me, to say, let's see if this is, you know, reasonable. That's why we're on the council. So I agree with Sylvia, we should look at it. I agree that I don't think it's going to be a major change in savings, but I would look at each one individually.
Let me make sure you understand that the calls that I thought were legitimate, that's entirely different. We're not perfect, there were mistakes. There were some lights that had to go back for safety reasons. That's sure. And then police went out and looked, and Bill looked, and I looked, or you looked. And so that's different. I'm talking about people who the woman who said to me, Woodville Alton Road, and they like to, when it's dark now, and now they can't see the wildlife. And we're talking deer and skunks, and she started listing them all. And I said, oh, I don't doubt it, because Woodville Alton, Woodville, you know how that is. There's always, the deer always find the police car. There's a lot of wildlife on those streets. But at night, they like to, it was the view. People don't, they've gotten used to that view, whether it's 25 years or 45 years. And it's not safety. The people that I'm talking about, it's not a safety issue. It's just that, what do I get for my taxes? Well, I get a light. I want my light back, please, you know, and so that's what I'm talking about.
What you get for your taxes is, you know, 80% of it going to the school. That's what you get for
Well,
your
yeah,
taxes.
but to Sylvia's point, I think, you know, we have to kind of take each case, and for folks that it's not a safety or health issue.
It's not a safety issue.
You know, I think if you look at the overall picture, it's probably not a lot. So maybe we could grant them, maybe you guys feel differently, but I would be in favor if it's not that many, of granting it for that purpose, even if it's not health and safety.
Well, I'd like to see the criteria that Public Works, what their criteria that they use, just so we can tighten things up a little bit instead of...
Yeah, I agree with Tom that we have really worked at tightening our budget. We have gone line by $50, $25 to keep the budgets and the taxes low for Hopkinton, and it's almost impossible. It's an incredibly difficult job. And as long as these people that are complaining don't mind their taxes going up, because we're saving on every level we can, and have them back, but...
All right, so we'll put this on a
Well, I haven't had
future...
a chance to say anything.
Well, go ahead.
But forget everybody else. First of all, I had two people contact me. One came in the library to speak to me, and one guy was concerned because his wife didn't like the darkness. One of the things, tough choices have to be made. We were told at the omnibus meeting that both Charleston and Hopkinton are probably going to be flushed over the cap. The thing is that I think we should consider as we do the budgets that we consider maybe having that as a side item. The problem is that I don't think we're going to escape the financial reality that every year we're going to have financial problems, and who's ever on future councils is going to have to deal with it. That's reality. Putting lights on and off doesn't solve that. I don't want to get off the subject, but we have to find another way to finance education. But the immediate problem is that 20,000 here, certain other amount here, it does add up and not maybe a lot, could add up to 100,000 or whatever, but this council, I think, is very conservative when it comes to money. I think generally, I think that's a fair statement, but I think that people have to make choices. People make choices because of the economy. So I think that when we approach this during our budget thing, we might want to put a separate item to bring the lights on. But I know people are concerned about it, and you know, politically, we could probably gain some points, but people also are going to be concerned about what we're going to do to keep taxes in check, and I don't see that scenario just from the school portion, let alone if we keep everything in the town static. And the town can't do that endlessly. So that's all I have to say, and thanks for letting me speak.
Okay. All right, so we'll have this back on the agenda once we get more information. Okay, next up, town manager's report.
Okay, thank you. The first passage has to do with the town-wide goals, and that's under new business, so I'll just skip down to number 2. Basically, I attended the omnibus meeting sponsored by the Charahoe Regional School Committee and the Career and Technical Center back on January 18th, and all school committee and town council members, finance directors, and town managers representing all 3 towns attended the meeting. And lastly, on January 26, I, along with department heads Laura Kenyon, Jim Lamphere, and Christine Brucio, attended the annual Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns convention at the Crown Plaza in Warwick. They hosted 18 individual workshops throughout the day, along with a trade show featuring numerous vendors from the Northeast area.
And I'd like to point out that I also attended that conference.
So you want to jump to the town-wide goals now?
You want to just go to old business, then we'll get new business and we'll start it again. Just follow through. He's just waiting till we hit new business.
Okay, so you don't want to do it up here? You want it?
That's your call.
Well, why don't we get right to the town-wide goals?
Okay.
New business.
I mean, it's on your,
Sure.
it's on your report. I don't know if you're going to end up wanting to leave.
We've got lots of business.
The town-wide goals, this is the 3rd year for the development of the annual and multi-year goals by the town department heads. It's worked out pretty well so far. And again, this year, the town of Hopkinton is seeking the adoption of town-wide annual goals for FY 2013 and multi-year goals for fiscal years 2014 through 16. In order to accomplish this project, each department head forwarded 3 annual and multi-year goals to my office by January 12th, earlier in the month. Department heads discussed each of them at a staff meeting that was held on Wednesday, January 18th. And during this meeting, we reviewed and evaluated the previous annual goals that were submitted for the current fiscal year to determine whether the town had accomplished those goals or would reasonably accomplish them by June 30th of this year. If not, we listed them as the FY13 annual goals or deleted them from the list. We believe that these proposed goals are practical, attainable, affordable, and measurable. We consider these goals to be important in that they come from the town employees themselves, most specifically the department heads, and they provide direction toward which projects are important to us that we'd like to see accomplished during next fiscal year. These goals, especially those with a budgetary impact, provide a nice introductory lead into the next budgetary process. Now compiled and prior to the upcoming budget hearings, the proposed goals are being submitted to the town council members for their review, evaluation, and adoption. If you would look on page 2, past the introductory memorandum, We've listed 9 goals. These are the annual goals developed by the department heads. They are not any priority. They're just listed, and I'll just read them into the record. The first one,
Can we ask questions as you go, or do we want to wait till it's all over?
it's up to you.
Why don't you go through them all and then we'll...
Bill, where are you?
Jump right into the
Where are you,
questions.
Bill?
2012, 2013 annual goals.
The first goal is a repeat of last year's goal. It was submitted by the Planning Division. It's to develop and implement incentive programs to encourage individuals to more easily meet affordable housing requirements established by Rhode Island Housing. The second is new, and it's to incorporate the human resource duties and responsibilities into the Finance Department. Number 3 is also a repeat of last year's annual goal. Acquire and install a town-wide backup computer system. Number 4, also a repeat of last year's goal, is to create and establish a town-wide stormwater pollution plan. Number 5 is to create and establish a town-wide hazardous mitigation plan, which we hope to have done prior to July 1st. Number 6 is amend the town zoning ordinances to attain consistency with a comprehensive plan. Number 7 is to update the gasoline pump computer system at DPW. Number 8 is to construct a vehicle impound yard at the police department. And number 9 is to reorganize the Parks and Recreation Department programs. Of the 9 annual goals, 3 of them, the backup computer system, number 3, the gasoline pump computer system, number 7, and the vehicle impound yard at the police department, number 8, are the ones that have a budgetary impact on the next fiscal year. With respect to the computer system, those funds would come out of the reserve fund as opposed to the operational budget. The same with the gasoline pump computer system at DPW. And number 8, the vehicle impound yard, we would hope to get those monies from the federal forfeiture fund. That's
Federal
Ma-
what fund?
federal forfeiture fund. That's easy for me to say.
Yeah, right.
That
Real fast, I missed that one.
3 times.
So, Bill, that technically wouldn't have a budgetary impact? Or
Well, we'll talk, he wants to go through everything first.
Those are, that money, I mean, it goes through finance, but it's not part of the operational or the budget or the CIP. So those are the proposed annual goals.
So why don't we target this one
Sure.
first before we jump into the other one?
Can we start with number 1?
Yes, exactly. Frank, do you want to have anything on number 1? Barbara?
Yeah. Why are we trying to help people more easily meet affordable housing requirements when they either meet them or they don't meet them? Are we looking at fraud? How does this, to develop and implement incentive programs to encourage individuals to more easily meet affordable housing requirements? They either meet them or they don't meet them. They can't, I mean, I'm assuming they cannot do something to make it better when it's not better, or is better, or is worse.
I read into it, maybe just to facilitate.
Let's look,
Well,
Barbara.
facilitate is different. This is encouraging them to more easily meet them. They're either met or they're not met.
Okay, you made your point on that.
Correct. So how are you planning on doing that?
Well, the state requirement is 10%, and by developing and facilitating alternate type programs that they will recognize will make it much easier for us to reach that 10% threshold.
So what you're saying is you're actually developing and implementing alternate programs. That's okay, that's fine, but that's what you mean by encouraging individuals to more easily
Implement
meet the
incentive
requirements.
programs to allow them to do that.
So alternate programs, like the rental program.
Make it
I know.
financially worthwhile for them to do it, which would encourage them to do it, which would promote it, which would increase the number of
Yeah, but you-
affordable housing units in town.
Yeah, but, I mean, you're talking about helping the people who own the housing to help us do this, not the people who need to get the housing. This is, that it's not written so I can understand it, because it's written so that you're changing the individuals who are renting to get their numbers in line so they become affordable. So what you are saying is it's alternate programs, like the rental program you're trying to develop. I'm
Is
just
that
trying to
the-
be clear.
That's along the lines that you meant. For instance, the rental program that we were looking at?
Yes.
That would meet this goal, okay, so.
Yes, that was submitted by Jim Lampham from Planning. I mean, we can take a look at the language and maybe
Right.
improve it if it's not,
Clear.
accurate.
Right, it's not
We can
accurate.
clarify it if need be.
Okay, I can understand that, that makes some sense.
Okay, is there anything else you had on number one?
New.
Is any questions on number one, Tom?
No question.
Or
When
comment?
when I read this is exactly what the rental program is, that we were talking about starting. Whether we give them a discount, somebody who has a rental property, because of the criteria of a 30-year lockup for the rent thing for low-income housing. That is what I saw when I read this, was that program it had nothing to do with the people renting. It was the homeowners who owned the apartments, to give them some kind of incentive to want to lock their rental units into a 30-year.
So maybe we just need to make it clearer.
So it was
Yeah.
just that it was read a different way, so Bill will look at the language to make sure that it's read the way you're thinking and not the way you're thinking.
Correct.
So that's all.
Am I right on?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
you're right on
yeah.
target.
Yeah, that's what when I read that. Okay.
Scott, did you have any question on
No,
number one?
I,
Do you have a question
We're-
on number one?
Hopkins is one of the towns, I think, in Rhode Island that's really been approaching that 10%. But I do think that we do have to develop an incentive program. It's probably really too late because the session started to really come up with a plan, but we should get from other cities and towns, because I think the 30-year requirement really scares off a lot of people. And at some point, we should probably ask them to put in legislation to reduce it to 20 or something more manageable. But I don't think so. But anyways, I do think this is a notable goal.
Okay, next up, number two, incorporate human resources duties. Frank, got anything?
I'm not sure what you meant by that, though, I guess. Just with finance, I guess, or?
I think what's happened is the town does not have a human resource department, and as a result of that, those functions need to be handled by somebody, and Laura Kenyon in finance has been filling that void, and a lot of that has to do with employees that are out, FMLA requirements, and I think what she wants to do is put together some type of manual as to how to address those issues. For example, when we hire people, when they go out on disabilities, when they go, out of the country on service. There are a lot of human resource functions that she's been handling, and she's going to incorporate them into some type of manual for some standardization and
Yeah,
uniformity.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Anyone else have a question on number two?
Another question to statement.
Go ahead.
Out of all the places, I think this is probably one place that it should go, due to the fact it's one of the only ones that's non-union. So you need the separation between management and union stuff. So I think that this department would be a good place for that to,
I think it makes good sense, too,
facilitate.
because she handles the paycheck, so she's handling everybody in, out, what they get, so I think it makes perfectly good sense.
Well, she handles all the benefits,
She
too.
handles,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, so I mean, I think that it's a perfectly good place, and it's a good idea.
So when I saw it, I thought that maybe it would be the managers do it, because you do the hiring and firing and things.
No, it's
Do you
not
think
that.
this is basically just compensation and things of that nature?
Yeah.
and conduct?
It's really complex.
And she's already doing it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, number three, acquire and install townwide backup computer system. Anybody have a question on that?
Yeah, how much have we already spent on it, since it's you said it was coming from this year into this next year? How much have we already spent on that, or is this a brand-new spending this year, and we just did research last year?
We titled it townwide, but there were a couple of different areas. One was the town hall, and the other was the police department, and the other was the Crandall House. And what we were able to accomplish in last year's goal was to put a computer backup system in for the police department, which is very important.
Sure.
We have yet to do it for town hall and the Crandall House.
So that's this coming...
That's next on the agenda. Town hall first, Crandall House second.
Okay, I got it.
All right, number 4, create and establish townwide stormwater pollution plan. That's something that the state is requiring
Didn't we
all
start
cities
this?
and towns to
Yeah.
do.
Didn't we already
We've
start
been
this?
working on it.
Is that through planning?
Public Works.
Yeah,
This
we
is the-
started this.
Mm-hmm.
That's through Public Works?
Yep.
Do you think we'll get that accomplished by July 1?
Well, these goals are actually for next fiscal year.
Oh, okay, so this is something he's working on, but you figure by the end of next year, this would be
We
accomplished?
hope so,
Well, whatever.
yeah. Okay, number 5, create and establish townwide hazardous mitigation plan.
Uh,
Go ahead.
We hope to have that done, although it's an annual goal for next fiscal year, we hope to have that done by June 30th. We had a couple of meetings already with RIEMA, Ken Dumas, who came down and gave us a hand to try to help us out in successfully putting together that plan. We've completed the plan, submitted it up to REMA and FEMA. It came back with some recommended revisions, and since Mike Octo left, none of those revisions have been made. So we have a meeting with him, with Ken Dumas later on in the month, and the police chief, myself, Jim Lanfair, and he's going to bring down some FEMA representatives so that we can get this moving again, because the lack of this plan is holding up that South Drive grant, and we don't want that to happen. So.
Anyone have any questions on that?
No, so Bill, you're going to get that done prior to hiring, or if we get a new EME person, you're not going to wait for that?
We're not going to wait for that. We got to move forward.
Yeah.
You know.
Number 6, amend the town zoning ordinance. We know we have to do that, and
Yeah.
we'll deal with that within this budget.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure we deal with it within this budget,
We will.
because
It'll
there's...
be on an agenda.
I understand, but he has us the 14-16. I would very much like to see the town zoning ordinances rewritten. We're beginning to cause real problems in town, so I'm very much interested in the budget cycle, because we'll talk about adding money this year and next
We'll have
year to
to.
try to do a multi-year goal on this.
They're somewhat related, but they are different. The one in the multi-year goals is to actually rewrite the town zoning ordinances.
Right.
This one is just to amend some of the zoning ordinances to attain consistency with the comprehensive plan, the ones that
Right,
Don't
but
fit.
I'm very interested in putting the rewrite in this year as well, not just the
I
amending, but
agree.
rewriting.
We're going to talk about that.
And we'll discuss that at the budget
workshop.
cycle.
Sure, that's a...
Because it's
sure.
just, it's becoming just crucial.
No, I agree, those two need to come together.
They really
and
do.
Because why would you hire a consultant to do a piece of it and then later have to...
Correct,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And it's becoming really a problem.
All right, number 7, update the gasoline pump computer system and obtain the, and the handle. I think we need some other work done too, but the computer system, go ahead, Tom.
I know months ago I had talked about adding a stipend for other people who use the DPW fuel,
Yes.
whether it be fire departments, ambulances, whoever, outside of Hopkinton municipality people. Do you know if that was ever done? I mean, because we're gonna spend X amount of dollars to put this system in, and the other people who are using these gas pumps aren't putting anything toward it.
Who's using it,
Hope Valley Fire Department uses it,
Yeah,
Ashway
Ashway.
Fire uses it, I believe the
Ambulances
both
use it.
ambulances use
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
There are a number of
Yep.
people
They
who,
We
use
go
the
out to
pump in the
bid
system.
and I mean, we did this back in the 90s, we go out to bid and we get, is it 3 year? I'm trying to remember how many years, well, anyway, we go out to bid and we get the best prices, usually ends
one.
up being Ginger's. So
1 year.
what we've been able to do is allow the fire department's ambulance to access ours, and they pay us at cost. But the idea was that maybe we should have, they should pay a penny more or something per gallon.
I think that with the updating of the computer system at the gasoline pump at DPW, that would be a good time
To do that.
to initiate that. But, I mean, the pump is, the computer is so old and the pumps are so old that they can't even get parts for them anymore. It's a real problem. So if they update the computer at that time, that would be a good time to initiate any increases for any, nonprofit agencies using the pump.
I would like to agree with Tom, because if that's the right time, this is really the time to do it.
Sure.
But we need somebody to help pay for the maintenance of those units that are used.
And that money
I
should
agree.
be in a restricted account.
And we have
It's not
discussed
gonna be a
that.
lot, but it's for the fuel.
I agree.
Okay,
That's
next
fine.
up, construct a vehicle impound yard at the police department. Maybe you could tell us more about that. Would you like to come up?
Microphone.
One of our detectives has already done some research on it. We're estimating the cost would be about $5,000. What that would do is fill in an area in the back of the parking lot for about, I think it's 6 vehicles. That would accommodate any type of accidents or vehicles that we've seized, to bring it in there and preserve that vehicle or chain of custody. A lot of times when you're making an arrest, you're not able to go through it thoroughly at that time, or if you've had a bad accident and you want to have an expert come down and do some testing on it. It's being brought and put into the parking lot. It's not preserved by chain of custody. When you put it into an impound that's locked, if something's found in there, say you find some drugs, and it's been sitting out in an open area, it always leaves the defense that someone has put that in after you've seized it and brought it down there. Same thing with testing of a vehicle. This will give us that ability to preserve that chain of custody. And again, it'll be about $5,000.
And the cost comes from?
We're looking at the federal forfeiture money. Right now, there's about $25,000 in there, we believe, and I think we can accommodate
Use
it.
it from there.
I'm sorry?
You're using it from that fund?
Yes, there's strict definitions that you can use the money in, and I believe that this is one of those instances that you can use the money. So,
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, reorganized park and recreational department programs.
That's just a structural change. It's broken down very nicely in the budget, but it needs to be broken down by function and people assigned to it by the estimated number of hours that they work, and it's kind of a procedural type thing that Mary Sawyer is working on now.
So will we go over more detail of that again in the budget?
Well, it's pretty well defined in the budget. I just think that they need to do a little more proper scheduling so that you can line up the person who's doing the work with the number of hours for the type of program and kind of project a timetable as to how long they run and put the whole package together so you can see from the whole year, you go from basketball to softball and how many people you need and how much it costs and who does what. So
Okay.
that reorganization is in the process of being done now.
Scott?
Yes, I would like to include Briggs Park. Briggs Memorial Park is next to the house that I used to live in growing up, and it's on 216, and it was given by the Briggs family, but it seems, and I've driven in there recently, and that, as I understood it, the town had an obligation to maintain that property or revert back to the Briggs family, if I remember correctly, but I would ask to at least look at that property and see where some improvements can be made. I know that you can't really do a lot, but it's a wooded area, and I know years ago they had picnic tables. I don't know if there's any left, and there was a couple of swing sets, and there's like a big hole in there too, from, you can tell where the glaciers came, but it's a nice place to walk, and it would be good that that could be revitalized somehow. At least go in and check the brush and that type of stuff, if the DPW could do that, or whatever, or the rec department.
But number 9 is a procedural, it has to
Organization.
be-
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I just want to make sure you understood. It's
Could
not
we-
reorganizing parks physically.
Could we add that as number 10, possibly?
This is from the rec department, that's their goal, and, I mean, if
So
there's
what
an issue
extent
with the
do you-
Briggs Parks, you can let the manager know, and the manager will talk to the rec department.
To what
Or-
extent
but-
should the council make modifications to the goals?
Oh, to any extent they want, but yours sounds like an issue that belongs
Well, the
in front of
bigger-
the manager.
One of the campaign things that I did was, I think, that's bigger than the Briggs Park thing is the state of town property. Whether it's the Briggs Park or any of the property that we have in the town, because the town of Hopkinton has an asset, which is our property, and I can tell you as a councilman, I do not know, and probably none of us know, and that's not a put down, but really, what property does the town of Hopkinton own? What is the condition of that property? And that would be a good topic of conversation.
And by the way, that listing of all the properties in our comprehensive plan.
Yes.
The state
I
of it.
actually know a little bit about the Briggs property, because it's right down the street from me, too. I know that because I've talked to Mary about that, because it's a pretty little property, it's a pretty little park. I know the Hoffmans have been taking
Yes.
care of some of it. They have been taking care of the litter with their church group, and, trying to keep it up as nice as possible. I think it's a good idea to do more there, but indeed, we have had citizens helping take care of it through the rec department, because I know Mary knows what's been going on with
Yeah,
Hoffmans.
they actually wanted to know if they could start trimming some of the bushes
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
over the roadways.
Just really nice people.
All right. Multi-year goals, Joe?
Thank you. Multi-year goals, there were also 9 of them. The first 3 were repeats from last year. They are also not prioritized either. Expand and renovate town hall to consolidate municipal offices. That's an ongoing massive project that depends on budgeting and funding, and we're going to be taking a close look at that during the budgetary process. We've completed Phase 1 of the architectural services, but before we implement and bring to the council Phase 2, we just want to make sure that we would have the available funding that would be available for such a project. Second was to rewrite the town zoning ordinances. That was requested by many of the department heads because of the lack of clarity in some of them. And the third one, number 3, was create and establish a mixed-use village ordinance. All those 3 were repeats from last year. Number 4 was to create and establish a business license ordinance in town. Number 5 was to create a police department policy manual containing orders, rules and regulations, and other directives consistent with accreditation requirements. Numbers 6 and 7 were also repeats from last year. Establish a town-wide database of taxpayer and business names and addresses. Number 7, integrate GIS mapping and assessor databases. And the last 2 were new: to link title card information with property record cards on the tax assessor's public terminal and internet service, and conduct a proposed business equipment ordinance, a cost-benefit analysis to determine the worthiness of such a program. And those were sponsored by the tax assessor.
Yeah, I like it.
Wait, we'll start right at the beginning.
I'm going to start the other way.
Let's just start at the beginning. Is there anything on number 1? Probably not. Number 2? Number 3? Number 4? Yes.
Yes.
Could you explain what you mean by that? What is a business license ordinance, or what did you have in mind?
I think that came from Rita Dean, the tax collector.
Oh,
And
yes, that's right.
She's been talking about that.
That's-
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's reasonable too, because I had a business in town. And I don't think it's difficult, and I think you should register the businesses in town. You need to know who you have and what they're there for and how they help the town and economically.
But is
So-
it just registration or licensing?
No, licensing.
Licensing.
Excuse me, what she's talking about is licensing.
Yep. So we'll have to just take it up and look at
We
it at
have it,
some point.
yeah, I had to have one from Westerly. It just is, it's just done in towns. I think it's a perfectly acceptable thing to do.
Yeah, we were looking at, actually, she recommended Westerly as
Yeah,
a model.
it's simply, it's
Exactly.
easy to do, it's not hard, but the fire department makes sure that you're not killing people, you know. So, I mean, it's a perfectly valid thing, and I don't think any business is surprised by it.
All right, next, number 5.
Thank God.
Yeah, I think we all, wholeheartedly support that.
Mandatory. Thank you.
Number
Thank you,
6.
thank you.
Establish a townwide database.
Yeah, I do have a comment on that. In many places, they have a city directory. I know there's a directory at Wesleyan, they put everybody in what their occupation is, clerk at elected vote or whatever. You should be limited to taxes and business names, because I think one of the things I like to see, and I think it would be good if it's possible, is get a listing of the organizations in town, because a lot of times they can be a resource. And I know they change offices a lot, but usually if you have the secretary, a lot of times secretaries of organizations tend to stay on a long time, or at least a box number or contact, because somebody will say, well, who's running the Boy Scouts in Ashway, for example, or the Little League, and unless you are active in it, you probably can't name somebody. So those things, it would probably be good for the town to know who the leaders of the organizations are.
So basically, business, profit, and nonprofit, which is
I
fine.
don't know if you want to include churches or that'd be a
Well,
problem.
they're businesses. They have whole tax things, so I think it's a great idea.
How about the city directory approach?
I don't know about that, that'll be up to the town, but I think having a database of taxpayers, businesses that are profit, nonprofit, churches are businesses within town. It's fine, it's a good idea.
Anything else on that? Okay, number 7, integrate GIS mapping.
I just wonder why that hadn't been done yet. I mean,
Christine?
it seems like we've had GIS for several years, and certainly that seems like one of the most obvious things for GIS and the assessor to do.
Well, 7, 8, and 9 deal with the assessor, and I asked her if she would come tonight, and she agreed. We'll put her right on the spot now.
Come on up.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Thank you.
The assessor's office is working with GIS to get that implemented. Why it didn't happen before I took the office, I can't explain, but I know I'm working with Matt to try and get that accomplished.
How
Do you
long
know
do you think
when
it'll
that might
take?
happen?
Yeah, how long will it take?
I can certainly let you know. I haven't sat with Matt and, what's going to have to happen is he has to work with one of the representatives from CRC to get that to integrate.
What is CRC?
CRC is the revaluation company that we use.
Certified reval has to work with him?
Yes.
In order for him to do this, do we have to pay CRC?
No. No. So
That's good.
that's just a matter of getting those two parties together and then going forward from there. Thanks. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so you don't really have a time yet.
I don't.
Oh, but in a year?
So maybe you could talk to him and find out, let Bill know when he thinks this project might be completed.
Sure.
What's the benefit, Chris, of that? Getting it up and running?
It's amazing when you can see what GIS can do, and then when you start to put all the data in with it, and then it could probably have a carryover to different departments in the town, but to start it here and to get, just to be able to see an aerial, and then the boundaries. With that, there's a lot of discovery with GIS, so, I find outbuildings, many different things that might not be on the property cards because we don't know that they're there.
Good.
But then when you go to it, then you can also pull up who's the owner, when it's transferred, and then depending on how deep we go with it and how many different layers, you can get more and more information.
Find out what color they use in their basement or something. Man.
How does that affect the title card information and property records?
That,
You're putting that on the public terminal and internet? What does
Yes.
that mean
That's
exactly?
that's in the front office here, we have a public terminal. And right now, they're two separate, the computer terminal shows the field cards. And then the clerk, Judy Roy, she keeps all of the title cards. And the title cards, she has since we started them, and then she's compiled them all into books. And what it'll do is it's going to save time in our office, because it's a lengthy process whenever there's a transfer on a property, because we update the computer, then we update the title cards, then we update the book and PDF. So now this is going to put it all, so when they come in, they can go right on one computer, see the title card, and then see the field card. And that's what we're trying to get. And we're working with CRC with that certified revaluation.
So CRC works with that as well?
Yes.
Do you have any idea how long that will take?
I've talked
I mean, it
I've
seems
talked
kind
to
of
them about that. It's a glitch, because they can do it, but when they make that change, it's going to change it for everybody that uses CRC. And with that, it might expose data that other towns might not want exposed, because it'll be attachments on the field card. And they might have attachments where it might be documentation that stays with a property that's really supposed to just stay in the office.
Proprietary, yeah.
So it's a glitch that they're trying to figure out how they can make it user-friendly for all the towns.
So at this point, you actually can't do it because they're working out the glitch. And then hopefully in a year or 6 months or something, they'll work that glitch out and then it'll start? I mean, it's a 14, 16 goal, so I'm assuming you're not planning on starting it this year because they're working it out, but it sounds like it's a good idea.
It was something we didn't think we'd be able to accomplish next fiscal year, so
Sure.
we kicked it out a few.
Yeah, okay, so, and by that time, they'll work out the glitch, because it sounds like a pretty big glitch.
Yeah, he has someone working on it, and it'll be great. We're ready to go as soon as they can enable it.
I think it was smart to move it a year.
Two.
Yeah, exactly, or 2.
So number 9?
I think, isn't she discussing that too?
Oh. Yeah, don't we get, well, I think number 9's in your ballpark, isn't it? It's, Bill?
Conduct a proposed.
Yes,
business
that was
equipment
proposed by
ordinance.
the tax assessor.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you could just explain what you had in mind for a business equipment ordinance and why that would be beneficial.
I don't have that list in what you're reading
Oh,
exactly.
maybe it's not yours.
Conduct a, yeah.
Cost-benefit analysis?
Basically, some towns have different tax rates. Yes, some towns have different tax rates. We have one. We have 2, motor vehicle and resident and real estate. And depending on whether, what we were talking about earlier, the other goal is to find out what businesses we have in town.
Right.
When we do that, then we can figure out what kind of tax base we have. And then from there, will it be worthwhile to have a different tax rate for those businesses in their property?
Depending on the size of the
Maybe, yeah.
business?
Right, and whether it would just be a flat rate for a smaller business, but then it would go, so, but that's where I want to do a
Something you want to kick
benefit.
around.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds
Get
like a
more
very good
comfortable with our
idea.
base, and then from our base, what would benefit the town the most.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea too, because I don't think we always know the economic base of the town. We just say, well, a business is bringing in more taxes, but we have no idea what that actually means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Tom?
Christine, don't we already do that? I mean, I pay a business tax.
Me too.
Right.
And not
This
Already.
would
I
be
mean, and
for-
I know that there are other businesses in here that just don't even bother paying them.
Right, well, the
Yes.
one that, I think the one that was spoken about earlier about with Rita Dean, that one's to get some teeth into it, so then people have to pay it, and it makes,
In order to
Right.
get their business?
right, they have, right now, I don't believe, if I'm not mistaken, I
They
don't think
just
that
don't
there's
pay
much,
it,
I don't
yeah.
think there's any teeth in that
There
law.
isn't, yeah. I didn't realize that, so I spoke to somebody. He says, well, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
So with that being said, by trying to figure out the base, then we can figure out, because we do, with it having teeth, we want to make it fair, and we want to make it so it benefits the town. So, do you see that?
Yeah, the other thing I have, along with that, and I remember talking to Steve Hazard about it, for small businesses, I mean, very small, I mean, I pay for my sugar house equipment. But I don't make squat. I mean, at one point, they were talking about, he had thought maybe exempting the first $25,000 worth of, I mean, is that something that,
That's what I want to do the analysis on, because I think that there's a lot of, the smaller businesses, you're chasing small money, and we want to promote still, so that's where really getting the base, and then figuring out how, whether a multi-rate, putting in a new rate, or leaving it and just putting an exemption, or,
So
just a
everybody
flat.
here, what you just said, the intention is not to get them to pay more, it's to also know what's there and then assist. It's a way that we can help the businesses, because maybe they're being unfairly treated. We
Yeah,
don't
there's,
know. We
there's a
just
lot of
don't
different
know.
ways we
Yeah.
can, yeah. But
Mr.
I-
Dubs, you had a comment? Oh, no.
Just a quick comment about this. I remember years ago in North Kingstown visiting this. If we want to attract businesses into this town, the best thing you could say is we don't tax the businesses as personal property, as their inventory. We don't want an inventory tax on businesses. We want the businesses to come here as opposed to another town that does tax them. Just a thought.
Yep.
And I think, too, the inventory, I'm assuming, is also different from equipment.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
talking about inventory at all.
Because I would
Yeah,
agree with
that's-
that.
you're right.
Inventory and equipment are two different things, because I would agree. I don't want an inventory tax either. I would go with that.
Any other questions? Thank you for being here. Thank you. I think we're done.
Thank you.
All right, now we go backwards.
we go back to the,
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go to old business. You all set, Bill?
Did you want me to resubmit these for the next meeting? Because there
Yeah, there was,
were some changes on the
Yes.
annual goals to a
when
few
you're
of them.
ready, you can get it on
Resubmit.
another agenda.
Okay, fine,
as soon
thank
as
you.
have it ready.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Old business. Schedule a date for the continuance of a hearing, Maxon Hill, and Mr. Dubs is here tonight. You want to come up?
Well, we're just scheduling a date, aren't we?
Well,
Where's
actually,
that in the
yeah, there's
discussion?
actually nothing to it except to schedule a date, you're right.
So when are we going to do this?
Yes, Lisa, what would be appropriate?
This would just be a continuation of where we left off.
Yes, I had no clue. That's my question too, Lisa, because the last I knew, we talked about, you were gonna decide, have some kind of workshop or
We
make a
did.
decision
We did.
about whether you wanted, and
We had our workshop, we went through the district use table, and actually Mr. Dubs was here, and we ended up holding everything off until we could get the comprehensive plan passed. It's
Okay.
passed, it's adopted, or it's been adopted. So now we can go back to this. So what the council needs is they need the minutes from that, because not everybody was there. So we need the minutes from that workshop. And we had changed, we've gone through the district use table, so it needs to come back to the council, because the bottom line is whether or not we're going to,
create that
re-ask-
district.
That's right, create a manufacturing light.
So did you make a decision about that?
Well, we couldn't decide in a workshop, but we, in a sense, we had a consensus that we were satisfied. We went through the district use table, we went through it and picked the categories that we thought were appropriate and what belonged to manufacturing and what belonged in the manufacturing light. So I think everybody needs to get their heads together, because he has a right to move forward
Yeah,
on this.
but I think, what we said is without that district being put into play.
So we need to create it.
Right, so what you need to do is put it before you in some manner so that you can adopt that district, if that's what you want to do,
A
before
new-
you,
Yes,
before you entertain what Mr. Dubs is asking you to do.
exactly.
Okay. So at the workshop, you had not reached a conclusion about it. is
Well,
that
we
right?
did, but it was a
Okay.
workshop, so you don't vote. There was a consensus that we
No,
were-
but you could ask the solicitor, for instance, to prepare an ordinance.
Yes. Or prepare what's necessary so we can move forward. And you look at the district use table, the changes, and there was a column, so the planner would have that too.
We received, the use table's been revised
By who?
by the planner's office,
Mm-hmm.
based on the workshop.
Oh, okay, but it hasn't been adopted.
No,
No.
no, no.
All right, so it's not in use.
So it's not in use.
So it needs to come before you
Yes.
for adoption of
Exactly.
that
Use table.
Use
Yes,
table?
yeah, and to create a
zone
new zone.
category.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, that, I mean, you can't do anything with Mr. Dove's request.
Right,
Until
yeah,
you
we
deal
need to
with
get
that.
this done first, exactly, yep.
But I think
And that's what you're looking for, just to move forward. Yes.
But I think the council has to realize that you need to have a time that, or a council meeting, you can allot a lot of time, because I suspect a lot of people will turn out for that.
Yeah, I also think that probably, I'd certainly make a recommendation that it's either late March, someplace after our budget cycle, because that's not,
For adoption of the use table?
no, not even for, just for the next discussion, the next discussion.
Well, if it's all right with the council, what I will do is I'll work with the solicitor's office and the town clerk's office and the planner's office and find out what needs to get done, and when it can get ready, and we will have it, probably, it might be March, I don't know.
I just
But
think-
we'll fit it into our schedule, that's all, but we need to move forward. And Mr. Dubs needs to know that we are gonna move forward, so. If it's all right with you, it's just, I'll just work it out, we don't have to set a specific date now.
I was just going to say.
If that's all right with you, does that sound reasonable?
As long as it's actively.
As long as we're
working,
moving
sure.
forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're not gonna postpone this, and I think we can fit it in nicely with what we have on our plate already.
Yeah, after the
I
budget.
just wanna do this right.
We to get the zone. in
Wait,
the,
yeah, okay.
All right, so we won't schedule an exact date tonight, but we intend to move this forward. So we'll just have to get all the parties together, and Lisa, you can get all that information together, we get the information from the planner's office, and make sure that Pat understands what it is we've done. Okay. All right, resolution. Thank you, Mr. Doug. Let's see, endorsement of legislation to amend RIGL 17-11-1. Scott, you want to take this?
Actually, I requested it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it came from Scott. Ooh, okay.
But I did pay attention to that.
Yeah.
gotta
I bet
find
you
it.
did.
Last year, about a year ago, I had asked the council to consider adoption of a resolution in regards to this. This is related to legislation that again this year it has passed the House Finance Committee to eliminate the 1,900 voter per polling precinct and extend it up to 4,000. Last year it went through the House of Representatives and it was held up in the Senate and never got approved. We're hoping this year that we can target maybe the Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, and a few specific senators that.
Especially with the new redistricting.
Yes,
Yeah, you came up with an alternative.
I did.
But I talked to Lisa about it today, and I had a few concerns.
Yeah, the main concern is that you're not authorized to sing. You're on.
Yes.
Yeah, but there was one other thing, too. There was a couple of other...
Sing?
Oh, there was just
The original one.
instead of sign, it says
Council Overshed also suggested a remove non-reference to mail ballots.
It was sing.
And I don't know if the redistricting, did we correct the redistricting?
I
thing?
did, and I corrected the redistricting. It says the state of Rhode Island has finalized the redistricting of its congressional Senate and representative districts. Rather than it was.
We're finalizing.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think the governor still has to sign it. The only thing that concerns me is that I don't think it's necessarily going to save Hopkinton because we're going to have two representative districts apparently. So even if we merge at Hope Valley School, there's still going to have to be a savings in poll workers because you're going to have two ballots.
But we're hoping that this could potentially allow us to have one polling precinct at the
Yeah.
Asheville Elementary School and one polling precinct
In
at
Hope Valley.
Hope Valley Elementary School that will be divided into two to take into consideration that new precinct.
Yeah. The background is that historically in Hopkins for many years, and I know we only had two districts, I don't know if it was 30, 40 years ago, we adopted the third district, which is the Hopkins City or central part of Hopkinton. The only thing that concerns me is that not all elections draw out the same amount of voters, so using a presidential year, there's more people showing up. And at some point you can have lines, but I mean, in a presidential year, more than likely.
You're gonna have lines anyway this year because you're required to show ID when you vote. So, that unless you're prepared with your ID in hand, that's gonna slow things up, so.
Well,
You don't
make
need
sure
a
we
picture
put some
ID
signs
this
out
year or
around town.
next year.
No, but you need some form of identification. Also, if this doesn't pass, the Board of Canvassers is prepared to shift precinct lines anyway to push so that if we have to have town hall as a voting district, because the Board of Elections does not want us to use public works any longer, then we'd have to have a smaller voting precinct here and larger precincts at Hope Valley Elementary School and Ashland Elementary School. So the Board of Canvassers is prepared to do some changes with mapping. We're hoping this is a.
I think we should wait until Councilor Capalvo comes here, but I'll make a motion that the town council adopt this resolution and send it to the suggested parties.
Second it?
All right, she's away, that's fine, she'll be back, but we can still vote this in. Anybody have any other, oh, gee, she comes back now. Anybody else have any other comments about
Yeah,
it?
I'd give her the courtesy of voting on it.
Well, she's coming back now, that's fine. Hey there. There's been a motion to adopt the resolution
With, you know,
with some minor changes.
Yeah.
It's fine with me.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
And I wish you well on getting it back.
All right, new business, set a hearing date for the proposed EMA ordinance. And there was a minor change to that, and you have the minor change in your books, and you have the one without the change, so.
Oh, I like that change, Tom.
Yeah, it made.
Well,
very
the only
good.
reason I came up with that was because of the fact that when we had the flood, I was the council president at the time, and I was the only one that could sign the state of emergency.
Sure.
So I figured that, you know, it might as well be put in there that they have to work with the council president.
I think it's very wise. It was a very good, it was a very good change.
And if I hadn't ran through that situation,
You wouldn't know.
I would never pick that up.
Okay. And I guess we're ready to move forward. What would you?
I would say the earliest you could hear is the 5th of March.
Okay. If that works, that's what we'll do. Okay. All right, we'll be up to March 5th. We've already discussed the townwide goals, so boards and commissions, we've got a couple appointments to make.
Yeah, we do. I'd like to make an appointment, I'd like to appoint Joseph Escher to the planning board.
Second that?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'd also like to appoint Chandra Benevento to the zoning board of review.
Second that?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I think she'll make a great addition. I'm very pleased.
Was that zoning?
Yes.
Zoning.
Gonna have a woman?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
sweet.
she's very good.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice
yeah.
girl.
What a surprise. Boy, she's good, all right.
It'll be a surprise for the boys.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That worked out just fine.
That's nice.
Take care of her.
Last public forum, is there anyone who would like to speak? Before you speak, I've
No, it's
got
about the tree warden. I haven't,
It's not about personal
No.
issues? Oh, okay, go ahead.
the tree warden, I work for the town of Narragansett, and they needed a tree warden, so they offered it to the guys. And one of the guys, one of the employees in the highway department, one of the guys came forward and said, this guy, he loves cutting trees and stuff. So they sent him to the DEM course, and he became a licensed arborist, and he's now the town's tree warden. And like you said, they're paying him anyways to be there. So now he has a responsibility, and it made this particular guy give that little bit extra effort because he felt like, you know, I got a responsibility now instead of just being one of the guys out there doing regular work. So you might really want to throw that out to the group of guys over there. Maybe somebody who really enjoys that kind of stuff would want to take the course, but the DEM does offer that course, if that helps you out at all.
Thank you.
It's a great idea.
I would like to suggest we adjourn in memory of the late.
Is someone else need to speak, or anyone else want to speak?
Well, I'll check. I think we're all done. Is there anyone else for public forum? Okay. We have two. Okay. Yeah, we have, before you make your motion, you want to adjourn to, in memory of someone, and he also does, so we want to make sure we do
I thought it
both.
would be a good gesture to adjourn in memory of Governor Garrity. We don't have many former governors, we only have a handful.
Mhm.
And
And the second one?
Colonel Larry Galogly from the 143rd at Quonset. He retired after 30 years, serving the state.
Max Cottrell was senator from Hopkinton.
Yeah, National Guard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just so you could say that.
Max Cottrell was Max Cottrell was senator, and he lived down, what was then Broad Street, now Main Street, and Governor Garrity was there and his wife when, I forgot the guy who was living at the house. We had a nice conversation, but there's an elite group of the former governors of Rhode Island, and I think it would be a good gesture to memorize or think of Governor Garrity and also the gentleman, so I'll let you make the motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we close the meeting tonight in honor of former Governor Garrahy and Colonel Lawrence Galogly of the 143rd Air Guard Base in Quonset. He retired after 30 years of service of the state, and he's retiring to Atlanta.
Second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.